Okay, in this video I want to go over how the action potential is propagated along the length of the axon. So this is another important concept. It's going to explain a little bit more about how these signals travel. And the action potential is propagated in one direction along the axon, so that's also important. It doesn't go backwards, it goes in one direction. And during the action potential, the inside of the cell becomes more positive. And we know that. We just went over the ions and how those things are affecting it. So the more positive with respect to the outside, an action potential generates local currents that tend to depolarize the membrane immediately adjacent to the location at which the action potentials are fired, or at which an action potential is fired. So what I'm saying by that is we have an action potential being fired. Now, the membrane adjacent to that is going to be affected by this. It's going to be stimulated, essentially, by this, okay, by the local flow of current, okay, like we were talking about before, the graded potentials. And when the depolarization caused by the local flow of current, or the local current flow, causes the adjacent cell to reach threshold, it can also then fire an action potential. So that action potential is then produced on the adjacent cell. And the action potential is only propagated in one direction, and that's because the membrane of the cell that recently fired an action potential goes through what's known as a relative refractory period, in which it is much more difficult to bring the cell to threshold again. So that's the reason why we see that. That's the reason why we see it only going in one direction. It would be way too much energy and way too much voltage change would need to occur in order to bring it to threshold. Okay?